Hello, thanks for joining me today for our open office hours with BLC. My name is Shelise, and I'm the dietitian here at Body Love Cafe. Today, I'll be doing our open office hours, and we'll be talking about healthy sleep habits. So let me just get my camera in the right spot. Okay. This is a topic I think I've talked about in the past, but it's always a good idea to revisit because when we're not sleeping well, like everything else gets messed up. So we're going to be diving into some reminders about healthy sleep and how to support that, even if our sleep isn't necessarily bad, but how can it be ideal is the question. Lastly, if you have any questions, I'll be available at the end. So we'll do Q&A. Here's our general disclaimer. As always, this information is not evaluated by the FDA, not intended to prevent, diagnose, treat, or to cure any diseases, and it is educational only. If you have any questions, please email the team at bodylovecafe.com email, and we'll be able to answer them for you. So, what does healthy sleep look like? And most people could probably give you some good tips on how to determine whether your sleep is healthy or not. But surprisingly, a lot of people are waking up tired every day and thinking that they're maybe getting healthy sleep or enough sleep. And that's just not the case. If you're waking up tired, um, like every day, definitely you're not getting healthy sleep. But if you're waking up tired even more than 50% of the time or up to, then you should definitely be looking into your sleep and how to improve it. So healthy sleep looks like waking up feeling energized, having the energy to get up in the morning. Our cortisol levels are supposed to spike in the morning in order to help us wake up and get going and get ready for the day. So we should have energy in the morning. If you're a slow starter or you always have trouble getting up or you push snooze like 17 times, then looking at your sleep schedule or whether your sleep is healthy or not would be a good idea because it could probably be improved. So you want to get the right sleep for your age and activity level. If you are a very physically active person or even mentally active, if you have a very challenging job or you're doing a lot of very mentally active things throughout the day, you're probably going to need more sleep than the average person because that is work, that's energy that you're putting in every day to your body or doing that mental energy that's being used up. So there's a few more listed here about what healthy sleep looks like. So fewer no nightmares. Frequent dreaming is something that is a sign of healthy sleep. So if you're someone who sleeps and like never has dreams or hardly ever, then that might be a sign that we're not getting the best sleep that we could. And not that you have to remember your dreams or anything like that, but usually if you ask someone, if they dreamed at all the night before, then they'll at least be able to tell you whether they did or not. They might not be able to tell you any details about the dream, but they will have the awareness that they did have some sort of dream. And tossing and turning, obviously not a good sign of healthy sleep. Also, you want to be able to fall asleep quickly and stay asleep. If you're waking up 1, 2, 3, I've had some clients that are waking up 6 times in the night. That is not a sign of healthy sleep. There's something that needs to be changed there in order to help support the sleeping throughout the night. So what does poor sleep look like? Obviously, a lot of the opposites of what we just discussed, but waking up feeling fatigued, especially if you're getting the quote unquote appropriate amount of sleep for your age and activity level, and you're still tired every morning. If you're having issues with temperature, you're feeling too hot or cold at night, and that is waking up or potentially not waking up fully, but just disturbing your sleep. Frequent nightmares, no dreaming, having an inconsistent bed time and wake time, trouble falling asleep or staying asleep. Another sign of unhealthy or poor sleep is getting woken up frequently by your pets or your neighbor or the lights outside, a car driving down the road. Those are all signs of poor sleep or unhealthy sleep. I had one client that was such a light sleeper the deer walking outside of her window and crunching on leaves would wake her up. And so when we have someone like that who maybe is a very light sleeper or gets woken up by every little noise, then there are some tools that we can use maybe to help support that. That might look like supplements to help us get into a deeper sleep. That could look like earbuds or earplugs. That could look like playing some white noise type music to kind of dull outside noise. There's lots of tools we can use to help with the light sleepers. So who's at risk for sleep deficiency? Many more people than on this list, but here's some just highlights. If you have blood sugar issues, either hyperglycemia or hypoglycemia, and so it's high or low blood sugars. If you have diabetes, then you might have sleep issues because your blood sugar will probably be fluctuating too extremely throughout the night, and that could actually wake you up. It could make your body temperature change. It can be stressful. It can spike your adrenaline. So blood sugar issues are a big deal when it comes to making sure that we're sleeping soundly throughout the night. Nightmares are a huge issue, especially for children and teens. I've also seen it in adults, but that's usually when it's coming up. The night terrors, the kids being afraid to go to bed for one, and then also waking up scared. So that can be a challenge for sleep deficiency, both in the kids and the parents, right? Because the kid or the child is probably going to wake up their parents, or they're making noise, or they're screaming in their sleep, or something along those lines. Menopause can be a risk for sleep deficiency. Pretty much any hormonal change could. Pregnancy would fall under that as well, but our body temperatures are typically changing when our hormones change. And so hot flashes is a common sleep disturbance that I see among my menopausal women. Sleep apnea, obviously our breathing can be impaired when we're sleeping. New parents with young kids are definitely sleep deprived. Pretty much the whole first year of having I saw a statistic recently, the whole first year of being a new parent, you are going to have sleep deprivation. And so until the child is about a year old, you have pretty much zero chances of getting back to a normal bedtime routine. So that's something to keep in mind as a new parent, or if you're planning on becoming a new parent, or you have someone in your family who's a new parent. And night shift workers or people who have multiple jobs. So if you're working a late night shift or a time when normally you would be sleeping, or you're having to wake up very early to do like a second job, then that can disturb your sleep and create the risk for sleep deficiency. Asthma or other respiratory issues, even chronic sinus issues can be a risk for sleep deficiency because it impairs our ability to sleep well. And chronic pain syndrome. This one is very common sleep disruptor, or maybe it's not the right word. It's people who have chronic pain syndrome are almost guaranteed to have sleep deficiency and sleep issues. Every single client I've worked with pain has had disturbed sleep. So it is very, very common if you're dealing with back injuries, a car accident, head trauma, anything, even a broken ankle, something like that, it's going to disturb your sleep, almost guaranteed. So how much sleep do you actually need? It's a great question. There's been a lot of debates about how much sleep people need, but this is from the CDC, and it says that newborns are needing quite a bit of sleep. Obviously, they're going to be sleeping most of the time. And then it goes up to infants, toddlers, preschool. So school age years, 6 to 12, those kids should be getting about 9 to 12 hours of sleep. So you can see that the sleep need is decreasing as we age. Teens are going to need 8 to 10 hours per night. And some teens are even needing a little bit more than that. But a lot of parents that I work with will be concerned because they're like, oh my gosh, my teenager is sleeping like 10 to 12 hours. And I think there's something wrong with them. And it's like, no, not necessarily. They just need more sleep than you. Adults, depending on their age, could need 7 or more hours per night. when you're getting below 7, like nowhere on here does it say 6, 7 or lower. So if you're consistently getting 6 to maybe only 5 hours of sleep a night, that is deficiency. Okay. No one should be averaging 6 hours of sleep a night, according to this, no matter what your age. So 7 or more is what's recommended for most adults. And, as we age, I've seen some statistics say that we reach a point, in our adult ages, maybe 50 or 60, and then we're needing more sleep as we age beyond that. But I think it can be kind of individualized depending on what kind of other health challenges that person might be dealing with and their physical activity levels. So if you are like not an efficient sleeper, right? If you're not sleeping very well, you're waking up, you're having trouble falling asleep, then your time, because you remember, your time in bed is not your sleeping time. So you might be in bed for 10 hours, but you're maybe only asleep for 5 of those hours. That would be very inefficient sleep, right? So if you're in bed for like 8 hours, but you're getting 7 hours of that, you're actually asleep, that's pretty good. That's pretty efficient. So if you are not tracking your sleep and you're, let's say, going to bed at 11 to midnight and you're waking up at 6 to 7, then somewhere in there, if you're not very efficient with your sleep and sleeping, like you're falling asleep really quickly, you're staying asleep throughout the night, you're waking up easily, then you're probably creating a sleep deficiency over time, because you might not be sleeping like 2 to 3 hours of that time period, in which case you'd fall below the 7-hour minimum limit. So what's a healthy bedtime routine? Maybe we're not getting enough sleep. Maybe our sleep is really inefficient and we want to improve it, right? So I work with lots of clients on how to improve sleep, and it's one of those, it's a challenging problem to have because we don't have a lot of evidence while we're sleeping, because obviously we're asleep. So it's hard to figure out when our sleep is actually improving or not. And from a objective perspective, because we don't have that. We don't have we're not videotaping ourselves while we're sleeping. We're not necessarily, I mean, we're not awake, obviously, or conscious enough to know, like, oh, I am sleeping well. It's not like if we have a digestive problem or if we have a cold or something like that. So sleep is a little bit of an enigma, and it can be challenging to nail down what our issues and challenges truly are, which is why one of the reasons why I recommend, if you are trying to evaluate your sleep, using an app or a device like one of those on your phone that listens to your breathing, or the Aura Ring, which tracks your sleep. Like, those are all wonderful devices to use if you are having challenges with your sleep and you're wanting to see, okay, how efficient is my sleep actually, and how can we get it better? Because if you don't have some way to get some realistic, objective data, it's a long journey, and it can be very challenging to determine if things are helping or hurting your sleep along the way. So getting ready for bed about an hour before you climb into bed is my recommendation. All right. So you should have a bedtime routine if you're not sleeping well, right? If you're trying to improve your sleep and you're wanting to create a better routine around your sleep, then you should start getting ready about an hour before you need to get into bed. This is your wind down time. Okay. Very, very important, especially if you have trouble falling asleep. Okay. So you need to dim the lights in the areas that you're going to be getting ready for bed in. That might be your bedroom or the bathroom, wherever that space is. You can try taking a hot shower or a cool shower, or maybe even a bath. That is whatever is relaxing to you. If you tend to run hot and you get hot at night, then maybe a cool shower is a good idea for you. Definitely brush and floss your teeth, wash your face, do all those normal things that you would need to do before you went to bed. Maybe do a face mask, or, trim your nails, like whatever, physical things you do to take care of your body. Could put lotion on, whatever is soothing and it's going to help take care of, your skin or help you feel relaxed. You want to avoid looking at electronics and screens for 2 hours before bed. This is really challenging for a lot of people. A lot of people will watch TV before bed, or they'll even fall asleep with a screen in front of them or the TV on. They'll be looking at their phone like the minute before they go to bed. And a lot of people use their phones as their alarms. So if you are really having challenges with sleep, then try to be strict about this, avoiding electronics and screens for 2 hours before bed. It can be a game changer. And especially if you are someone who looks at screens all day long for your job, then you need to have very strict boundaries around your screen time before bed. Reading a book or doing other no tech activity. So it's not that you just need to sit there in bed and stare at the wall sort of thing as you're winding down. You can do an activity like being physically active and doing something that kind of keeps the hands and the mind busy can be a great way to wind down and get your body ready for relaxing. So you can do something like a puzzle or reading a book, just something that's no tech and that doesn't require a lot of not something that requires a ton of energy. You could go for a walk before, as part of your bedtime routine, if that's relaxing for you. You could walk slowly on your, treadmill. It can be a low impact activity, like physical, or you can just do something with your hands. It doesn't require too much mental energy. Cleaning your room. So this is a really overlooked one. I think personally, I tend to fall asleep easier and feel better waking up when I am in a clean and organized space. And maybe not everyone is like that, but if you are someone who tends to have a messy room, disorganized room, and you're having trouble sleeping, then that's something to try. Try keeping your room a little more organized, a little more clean, a little more just a little more comfortable, right? We want to make sure that the space feels good and you feel good waking up in it. Listening to nature sounds or a soothing podcast. There's tons of great story time podcasts for kids and even adults online. So if you are wanting to hear a soothing voice and that's going to help you wind down, or listen to some piano music or waves of the ocean, those sorts of things are all great. We talked about tracking your sleep with a device and then monitoring your bedroom temperature. So this is interesting. I did my own experiment with this, and it definitely can vary a little bit person to person. And if you are co-sleeping with someone, then you kind of have to take their needs into account as well. But when I'm working with a client on sleep, a lot of times temperature regulation can be an issue. We talked about it in regards to menopause, but even if you're not having hot flashes, we can still have situations where we just wake up and we're sweating, we're too hot, or we're cold and we have to grab a blanket. So it can depend on, the weather and the seasons, but typically, scientifically, we sleep better when we are cooler because our body temperature should drop by like 2 degrees when we are sleeping. So according to science, the best temperatures to sleep at are around 65 degrees. So if you are living in a hot climate and you're not using your air conditioner, then I'm pretty sure everybody has experienced that situation where it's really hot, it's the middle of summer, and like anything touching your body just feels like too much and you can't sleep because you're just overheated. So using things like ice pack, a cool bath, cool drinks, things like that can be helpful in those situations. And, if you want to, you can run your air conditioner to cool your room off to help you sleep. The opposite of that is sometimes the room can be too cold, or one partner runs hot, and so the other person is always freezing in the bedroom and not able to sleep well, right? So playing around with the temperature in your bedroom and maybe having different blankets on the bed, or you can use different comforters and pajamas and things like that to help regulate your temperature, and pillows can really make a difference when it comes to improving your sleep quality. So here's some final tips. If you are having blood sugar issues, or you suspect that might be a challenge for you, and you're waking up in the middle of the night or like very early and you're hungry, try a bedtime snack. Make sure it's going to include some fat and protein and maybe a fruit or vegetable. So a good example is half an apple with some almond butter. You have fat, protein, and the carb is your apple, right? Listening to calming music or nature sounds, we talked about that already, but you can do this earlier in the day. You can start doing this at dinner time. You can start your wind down earlier. It doesn't have to wait till right before you're going to bed. Bedtime stories or just reading can be very helpful, especially if you're someone who likes, you can read them to yourself, obviously, or you can, like I said, listen to some sort of podcast. Especially if you're someone who like really enjoys looking at the illustrations in books, or like that can be soothing and calming for you, then I highly suggest that. Trying a humidifier or a dehumidifier. If you're in a very dry climate and you wake up with a dry throat a lot, then you might find that putting a humidifier in your room can help you sleep. If you are in a very humid environment and you tend to feel like you're just kind of damp and sweaty all the time, then a dehumidifier might help with your comfort as you're sleeping or your temperature regulation. Aromatherapy can definitely help, especially if you're doing like a bath or if you're doing some sort of beauty ritual or mask. If you have a candle you love, some essential oils, all those can help us with that wind down process and feeling like, okay, we're relaxing, getting ready for bed. All these things are cues, right? Like we're literally retraining ourselves. So if you think about a child and how you're helping them when they're starting to get older to establish a bedtime routine, right? They brush their teeth, they change into their PJs, they read their story, they have their comfy blankets and their stuffed animals. Like there's all these little details that we use to help the child realize, okay, it's bedtime. It's time to talk quieter, and we're going to turn the lights down, and we're going to start getting, really, we're going to start getting sleepy, like these are all tools we use with kids, but it seems like when we're an adult, we just forget about all these tools that we used for our, that our parents either used on us or we used on our own children. So all those are still valid, to use as an adult. Don't forget about those. Consider your mattress and pillow. It might be time, if your mattress, especially if it's over 10 years old, just depending on the type, you might need to invest in a new mattress and or try a different pillow to help with your comfort while you're sleeping. New sheets also can make a huge difference depending on what types of sheets you like and your body temperature regulation. So I tend to sometimes I'll have to change positions when I'm sleeping and turn over to the other side. And I found that when I was using like the stretchy, like cottony sheets, I would just get tangled up in the sheets and it would be really hard to go back to sleep for whatever reason. And so changing my sheets to have something that was a little more like linen and it wasn't stretchy and it would kind of be a little more slippery, that helped a lot. And it seems like a very small change, but it made a big difference. Consider your mattress. Oh, no, we already talked about that. Keep kids and pets out of the bedroom. This is probably the most controversial one and most challenging that I work on with clients. And I totally understand because I have a pet that sleeps on my bed, and it would be ludicrous to not allow her to sleep with me if someone suggested that. However, if sleep really is a challenge for you and you're finding that it is affecting your day-to-day life and your mood and your energy, then you might need to get a little more strict with your boundaries around kids and pets in the bedroom. I've even suggested some clients sleep in a separate bedroom from their partner or the person they're co-sleeping with, because maybe their partner is tosses and turns a lot, or maybe they snore, or there's something else, or the bed is just too small, it's not comfortable, something else is going on there. So I have definitely suggested that to clients to help improve their sleep. And so if you have the opportunity to do that as an experiment, if you find that the person you're co-sleeping with is making it harder for you to sleep well, then I highly suggest trying that out, at least for a couple nights, and just see. And And doesn't mean that has to be forever, but if you are very sleep deprived and we need to make some changes immediately, that can be a good solution. And pets especially, kids, obviously they will grow out of it, right? It might take a few years, but kids, and you can also kind of have a conversation with them or have different rules around when they're allowed to come into the bedroom. But the pets can be a big deal, especially if a dog and like a hardwood floor, they're walking around and making clicky clackety noises, or, a cat that is meowing and, kneading on your face. So those can be challenging in order to manage, in order to get your sleep better. But I don't have a ton of great solutions for that other than trying to, maybe get a cat bed or a dog bed for your animal and put it on the floor so they're not sleeping on your bed, right? That's an option. Getting a kennel for them so that they are in their own space at night and they can't jump on you or disturb you. That might take some getting used to for them if they are like whining or whimpering or meowing or something like that. But you want to try to make sure that they aren't the reason you're not sleeping well. Blackout curtains are definitely a lifesaver, especially if you're light sensitive and if you are not an early riser and the sunlight is potentially disturbing your sleep. And electronics out of the bedroom. So this kind of ties into the no screens thing, but also thinking about just if you are someone who maybe works from home or has a TV in their bedroom, maybe you want to try taking those things out and experimenting with having just no electronic devices in the bedroom other than maybe your phone if you're using that for a alarm, and definitely put it on airplane mode at night because you don't want the electrical radiation, near you. We're supposed to be, 6 feet away from our phones at all times. They're very dangerous and they give off a lot of radiation, especially when they're sending and receiving messages or we're on a phone call. So all of your electronics give off some form of radiation. Do not fall asleep with your laptop in your bed or your iPad, and do not have your Wi-Fi router right next to your, bed in your bedroom. Like those are all exposing you to radiation that can disturb not only your overall health, but especially your sleep. So do a little electronics purge of your room if you suspect that might be something that's impacting your sleep quality. All right. And thank you so much for joining. Now we're going to end the recording and do Q&A. Thank you.